seconds until minions spawn.
Hello and welcome everyone, welcome to another Ration Cast. And today we're having a look at a gameplay here by Mr. Hyde on Bush on the Korean server. He is currently situated in Grandmaster and he will be playing the LeBlanc. The one pick, the one and only, his most famous. Alright, so he will be forced to flash, however he did pick up an assist for himself. So, the whole situation, that turned really bad. Okay, so we will see how exactly this one ends up. Let me tell you, Syndra, beautiful trade onto the Syndra. So, he is fully using his W's kit here, right? He used the damage part to pick up the minions. Then he did some damage to her, and then he used his W part to dodge her Q. Same thing here again, right? So this is already very simple, right? This is, if you look at it, you can look at your own gameplay and you can go, okay, well, this is very simple, right? He doesn't go for CS, or he doesn't go for damage onto her necessarily. He is heavily trading, and spoiler alert, this is a little bit more complex what he's doing here. But TLDR is basically he's using both parts of his ability, right? Which is very good. Now, the precarious situation he will find himself in is if his jungler didn't come and help here and Syndra did put more pressure onto him, she would be able to lock the wave in her favor and bully him out of CS. Because at a certain point, he can't do this trading pattern onto Syndra anymore. And the certain point is now, because she is level 3 now. Alright, so we see Faker move. If Faker moves from this position here and a fight ensues, and let's say no one gets anything from that fight, Syndra wins out, right? Because the big wave, the wave is stacking up, and this sets Faker now on a timer to be around that wave for longer, right? So the wave is pushing into the turret, which means that if Syndra were to return with him at the same point, then obviously Syndra would benefit from gaining more XP because more minions would still be alive. Okay, beautiful chain, and this is what you gotta be careful with. Is obviously there are these junglers like the Bel'Veth and like the Graves that are ridiculously good at following up with a LeBlanc setup, and this is exactly what happened here. Alright, excuse me for the pause, but I am unfortunately still a little bit sick. And so I might have to pause a couple of times because my nose is still running and my voice is still struggling. So I have to hydrate enough and obviously, you know, try to keep the impact of this whole thing as low as possible. Okay, the chain will miss here. But you see how he stands his ground because he knows that his jungler is coming. Alright, so now again, right, this is going to put him into a very, very difficult situation. And you can't fail but notice that Faker is playing versus a player that is sub his par. So Syndra is failing to put on pressure onto Faker in a way that a challenger player would probably not. So I don't know what exactly the deal is with Shadow quadruple 11, but Shadow quadruple 11, it might even be like a support player or something that is because this is actually like pretty basic stuff that he is doing wrong. Is you know, obviously he knew that the jungler would be around. I mean, he had the information, right? We don't know if he knew, but he had the information. And with LeBlanc in general, rule number 1 is don't matter how good you're doing. If you can't kill the LeBlanc before her chain goes off, there's a good chance you die and she lives, right? Because LeBlanc always has that annoying timer with her passive, and then if you don't manage to punish that, beautiful trade. Okay, this was a decent job by Syndra. moving through it. Yeah. Oh, damn. Yeah, it wasn't quite good enough. Ooh, but... Oh! Beautiful flash W by Faker. So yeah. That was, I would say that was just a very, very slight micro play. Very good job by Faker, obviously, in punishing that. And yeah, I can't help but feel like the Syndra is somehow holding back. Who knows? You know, playing versus Faker is scary. But yeah. So, absolutely, LeBlanc is also a champion that you have to be very tricky on. Because as you saw there, right? The damage potential still was with Syndra, although Syndra, by this point, has absolutely lost the lane, right? So Syndra has already given over too much gold to LeBlanc in a situation where she definitely wasn't allowed to. And, so yeah, the whole, yeah, so now you really don't stand a chance. Because this is often the problem with a, if you're playing a mage that doesn't have a lot of mobility. You play that versus LeBlanc and she just goes in on you and binds you and you can't do anything anymore, because usually kind of the way that it is balanced is she can't just go on you, because most of the time she doesn't just win the trades, right? So all of this theory obviously doesn't really matter in lower elo. I feel like I have to point that out. Obviously, you know, below I'd say platinum, maybe high gold sometimes, and platinum. I think in high gold you can already encounter players like this, but platinum you're pretty sure to encounter them more often. Is people that know a certain matchup very well. These players, you will definitely have to adhere to exactly these rules, right? But let's say you're playing LeBlanc in like mid to low gold, you can still pick up kills in every matchup versus every champion, just on the mere basis of, you know, things like what Faker was doing there, just using your W to the maximum, right? Not allowing Syndra to hit her Qs, and kind of just abusing the whole kit of your champion. Now this obviously is also a little bit dependent on what champion you're playing, but usually if you're really good at using the entire kit of your champion, then that can work out. Also, if you are capable of that, might be... Ooh, beautiful. By the way, the reason I stopped commenting this part is because this is not going to be very beautiful, and it's just going to be a similar situation all over again. Like, either Syndra has to give everything or she dies. And, well, she does die. Because it's a Yuumi in the bot lane, right? So she can't really help. K'Sante also not the most roaming top laner, because K'Sante is like, he's pretty gold intensive, so he wants to stay up in XP and gold. But yeah, so basically what I was talking about is that obviously matchups are very, very different in which elo ever you are, right? So, for example, often in flat, you will find yourself not winning lane anymore. Like I found myself not winning lane versus certain matchups, like for example a Syndra, right? I'd play Victor versus Syndra, and all of a sudden I wouldn't be able to kill Syndra in lane. And that was a really big brain melter for me, because I was like, dude, how am I so bad? However, technically, the Syndra versus Victor matchup, you're not supposed to win that early as Victor, right? It's not where your strengths lie, especially not if you're running phase rush, right? Which I would often do and then complain, because I was used to being able to. And so this is obviously something that you also have to keep in mind, is if you usually solo kill people in lane, then that means that your macro play and that kind of stuff is really terrible. Like your timing with deaths, for example, right? This is something that I was really bad at. Is I would die as a very important carry, I would do really good, and then as a very important carry, I would die and get caught in really stupid deaths. Right? Just get blitzcrank cooked. Or just get caught off guard by something in the late game because I was not as careful anymore. And so that means that obviously, you know, just a little thing that you can figure out, I guess, which helps me like figure these things out, is if you're doing really good like laning wise, and for example, right, you're beating as a LeBlanc, you're beating a Syndra in lane, solo killing her, like not with your jungler but solo killing her. That means that you are playing really poor macro, or else you would be destroying the entire enemy team, right? This is just a good like rule of thumb. Obviously this doesn't count for you if you're being Grandmaster or something like that, but at that point you're also probably not destroying a Syndra anymore, right? But yeah, so now obviously we are transitioning into the side lane, and this is where the gap grows even larger. This is something that you have to add, obviously, is oftentimes going into the side lane is either where you can have situations like this, right, where Faker now is caught with their strongest carry, and now the question, or their strongest champion, and now the question is who wins? And in this case it is K'Sante who wins, doing an absolutely amazing job so far. And unfortunately Nami was there, but yeah, look at him. So K'Sante wins out here, and this happens often as a mid laner, is you go into the side lane and top laners are very brawly. Top laners are very, very capable of fighting. So you go ahead with the mentality of I'm ahead, I'm strong, I have, you know, 20 Magi stacks, I'm super strong, I have my Banshee's Veil, like nothing can harm me. And then this happens, and you get taken down by K'Sante, who obviously here in this situation made a really big blunder anyway. But what I'm trying to say here is that obviously in the side lane, this can happen a lot. And to me, this happens a lot, which is something that, you know, I feel like I have to add. This happens to me a lot, where I go into the side lane, I feel confident, right? And then something like a Fiora or something runs me down, and even you feel like it's 1-2, right? Fiora is like 1 and 2. So she is behind by top lane standards. She can still take you down often, just because brawlers are very, very strong. And depending on the champion that you're playing, your champion is maybe not like all single target damage, right? So obviously LeBlanc much stronger in the side lane than, I don't know, champion like Victor, for example, right? As Victor, it's very easy to just get run down by a ghost, by a ghosting Tryndamere. Ooh, so the shutdown collected here by Jhin. Faker eating his Morello purchase. And it seems like the blue team is bouncing back quite well. Still 8k gold disadvantage, but their team comp still is very capable of dealing with Bel'Veth. Not so good at dealing with LeBlanc. Now it might seem like that is wrong because of what just happened, but Faker's also playing very, very greedy, right? So once he starts giving more respect, he will surely do better. But yeah, so the side lane's a very, very interesting transition for a mid laner, because this is where you can either completely destroy, or depending on the lane assignment, you get you lose a lot of the lead that you had. Ooh, beautiful pickup. Or you lose a lot of the lead that you had, and you kind of end up falling behind and getting kind of destroyed and scammed out of your lead. So this is something that I kind of want to point out, is, at least to me, I've noticed this a lot, and obviously I'm playing Victor, right? This is a champion that doesn't necessarily thrive in the side lane, right? So oftentimes you can be forced. Beautiful. Nice damage. This is what I meant with this team isn't very good at resisting LeBlanc, by the way. Is it can be difficult to peel for this for your carries with this LeBlanc. But yeah, so TLDR, obviously, go into the side lane. You're supposed to, right, from the mid lane. Except maybe if you're a Zoe or a Xerath. But then still. But I would say it's more acceptable for a Xerath to stay mid lane for longer. At least, because you're super vulnerable. And Zoe is just super good in the mid lane. Because she has all those walls and bushes and stuff. But as something like LeBlanc, most definitely go into the side lane. Because that's where you become ridiculously strong. If the matchup, you know, supports it. And for example, you're playing versus your mid laner in the side lane, which happens often. If you're playing versus your mid laner, then all of a sudden you can do super well, right? And if you're playing versus the fed top laner, then if you're not cocky enough, if you're smart about it, then you can neutralize a threat whilst your mid laner maybe dies to your top laner and then he gets back into the game and stuff like that. So as long as you don't view it in a selfish way, this is very good. And another thing that I kind of want to point out is, as a mid laner, a lot of the time, something that you can learn and keep in mind is... goodness me, dude. That LeBlanc damage. Something that you can keep in mind is that if you get ahead, oftentimes you don't have to kill the enemy to stay ahead. Which sounds weird, but a lot of the time that is how it works. Ooh, this is end of the replay. Well, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Stay awesome.